you get that you have to have a source of value that's added.
Yep.
And so the value that we add as a service is we're actually tradespeople. So we developed a trades program. We literally developed the trades program in Australia. We made what we do a thing called engineer level 2.
Okay.
So that's how serious I am about adding value to a product. So we created people that became tradespeople because of the product we provide. You see, and that's why I said to you, Jerry, when you look at your machine,
yep,
you've got to actually look at it as leverage.
Yeah.
Right now, it's not leverage. Right now, it's a piece of equipment.
Yep.
Right, and the way to leverage that is to make it more accessible to the public as a service. And right now, you use it as a tool for your concrete.
Yeah.
And so what we have to do is look at how we can go about turning that into a product with your service.
Yeah.
Because that's all it is. And you've got to distinguish between product and service. Same thing for you, Meghan, is when we look into your business, we know that people actually use your business because it's hands-on. It's literally hands-on. And they go there for the touch, right?
Yeah.
It makes them feel better. But we also have to see if we can leverage product. Now, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you exactly what it's like to be able to leverage something and how you can create a formula for it. And I do create formulas. And so when I create the formula, I want you to understand that we can create a formula for any product you can imagine. We can create that formula. I apologize, I'm a little bit slow today because I'm a little bit tired, but there you go. Okay, so I'm going to give you this concept, and I'm going to show it to you now, and then we can start talking about how we can do it. So in my mind, in running a business, you have to work 55 hours. Anyone that thinks a business can work in under 55 hours is kidding themselves. Right? So that's 10 hours a day and a half day on Saturday is the way I see it. And that's how I create my formula. So I say 55 hours is the minimum requirement for a business. And so when you're creating a concept of a business, you want to understand that in that business, you literally have got to set a time frame. So in anything you do, you set a boundary, right? In anything you do, I've told you that I have a formula. Everything starts at 1 and divides.
Yep.
Okay. Now, when you're thinking about it, time has a division. So Meghan, what we've been discussing with your business, we've been discussing, should I open on this day or should I open in these hours? Because that sets the boundary of how you can make your money or how you can create your money more appropriately, right?
Yeah.
And it's not about being in a shop or in a job for 55 hours. You've got to have 55 hours where you're promoting the business, where you're out there saying, this is what I'm doing. And so when you're looking at the 55 hours, you've got to say 55 hours, and that equals 1. You understand my point?
I think so.
Why does 55 equal 1?
Is one the number that we're working with? So everything starts at 1 and divide?
Yes. So time is now divided. And so what we're saying is, like, when you look at your shop hours, that equals 1, or the boundaries of your opportunity. You understand me now? It's really important to understand this concept, because now when you go to 55 hours, you have to now divide it. So when you look at division of the 55, how many hours are producing money and how many are promoting you to get to that point of producing money? You understand my point, Jerry?
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at your machine as an argument.
Yep.
Okay, now in my business, I know that 0.4 of the time that my operators are out there canvassing for business or doing business, 0.4 of it has to be chargeable. And so we would do exactly the same thing with your business. Have you got your calculator again, Jerry?
Yes.
Okay, so I want you to go 55 times 0.4.
This is 22.
22. So what I say is my guys have got to have 22 hours chargeable. You see, I don't sell product. What do I sell?
Okay, time or your service?
Service.
Yeah.
Now, at that moment, I need to say, okay, how do I leverage? How would I leverage?
Advertising?
Okay, so then what I have is what I call a product multiplier. What do you think my product multiplier would be?
Advertising?
No. Product multiplier. See, it's how much product do I sell?
Oh, okay.
And see, so now my product multiplier today is 3.7. And what that means is for every $1 of time I sell, $3.70 in product.
Okay.
Does that make sense to both of you? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
Megan, do you understand this?
I think, what's the 0.40, Kelly?
The 0.40 is chargeable time.
Okay.
So if I look at this, 0.40 is chargeable time. So if I'm looking at it in your salon, I'm actually working out how much of my time are the people in my salon working and how much time are they waiting.
Yep, okay.
Okay, and then what I also look at is I look at this idea is how do I leverage it? And leverage, you cannot leverage time, right? And people will tell me, oh, you can leverage time, but time is an infinite reality, but it's also finite. It's finite by the fact that we put 55 hours. That makes it finite, right? But you know what makes it infinite?
By putting a boundary?
That what makes it what you put the boundary on it, that makes it finite. What makes it infinite is the opportunity.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
I don't know why I can't. Let me do that. I'm trying to, oh, I know what it is. Sometimes you can be so stupid you're smart, and sometimes you're so smart you're stupid. I've got speakers here, and I forget that I can turn up my speaker, and I'm trying to do it on my computer. So I've turned it up on my speakers. So I want you to really understand this. What I want to create for you and Jerry is a formula that we can drive our business. Remember when I said to you, right now we're trying to understand our business, then we're going to drive our business.
Yeah.
And you drive the business by numbers. You don't drive, you actually create the business with words, but you drive it with numbers, because you've got to be able to measure it, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at this, in my formula, it's 55 times 0.4. Now, in this case, we charge $85 an hour. Okay. So now, when we look at that, if I charge $85 an hour, I must multiply that by 22. Right? So what's 22 times 85, Jerry?
1,870.
1,000.
870.
Sorry, 800.7.
70.
Okay. Now, if I've got 1,870 chargeable time, now I've got to multiply that, right? At this moment, I multiply that by what?
3.7.
3.7. So now what do I get?
4 by 3.7 equals 6,919. Kelly, that you've got 1,800.70. It's actually 1,870.
1,8. Oh, I'm with you.
1,870. That's it. Yep. And
My apologies. So now it's 1870. Now, when I go here,
that equals 6,919.
6,919.
Yep.
So what do I want as my weekly turnover?
The difference between those two numbers?
No. So if I look at this, my leverage, I add those, don't I?
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Okay, so what do I want my weekly turnover to be?
Plus 1,870 equals 8,789. 8,789.
Is that correct?
No, 8,789.
Okay.
Yep, that's it. 8,789.
89. Okay, I apologize. Okay, 789.
8789.
God, what just happened there? Okay. 8789.
Yep.
That's what I want my weekly turnover to be.
Yep.
Now, what do I multiply it by?
Days, so 5.5 days.
No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply it. This is a weekly turnover, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to multiply it by 48. That will give me my annualized turnover.
Okay. Yep.
So take 8789 and multiply it.
Yep, by 48.
Yep.
Equals 421,000.
421.
872.
872.
Yep.
Right? That's what I want.
Yep.
As my annualized turnover per vehicle.
Yep.
And so when I go out to do the business, I'm doing that. Now, what else could I add to my formula?
You could divide it by 12 for your monthly breakdown and then break it down backwards.
Yeah, I can do that. But what else is really important in the formula? Cost of goods. So in my cost of goods, so on a weekly basis, I'm selling $6,019 worth of product. What I want to do is know what my margin in that product is.
Yeah.
And so now I take that and my cost of goods there, I want to have a formula of 0.5. Is this making sense?
How do you get the 0.5, Kelly?
Well, I want to double what if I buy a product for 50 cents, I want to sell it for $1.
Yeah, okay, yes, I'm with you.
Okay, so if you take 6,919 and times it by 0.5.
Equals $3,459.
3,459, yeah?
Yeah. And 50 cents, yeah, 0.50.
Okay, so now that is the margin that I want for the product. It's not profit, it's the margin.
Yeah.
Now I have to work out my expenses. Now I have to work out how it is that I get my margin and leads to profit.
Yep.
And so when you're looking at it, when I say to Meghan, you've got a theoretical profit, but you've got to maintain that position, like 0.82 is a theoretical profit. But if you can't maintain that for the full year, then you won't make your profit. So the focus has to be an annualized focus.
Yep.
So can you see what I'm doing, Meghan?
Yes.
So ultimately, I want to create a formula for you, and I want to create a formula for Gerry.
Yep.
And so when we start to look at it, it's not unusual. Meghan, you worked at McDonald's, right? Okay, when did McDonald's really make their money or create their money? What were the time frames?
Probably Thursdays and Saturdays, like late night shopping and weekends.
Yeah, Thursdays, but during the day, when did McDonald's really make their money?
Lunchtime.
Yeah, so they originally it was lunchtime, then they added a breakfast menu, then they added their McCafes,
Yeah.
and what that's doing is creating revenues, margin revenues at time frames.
Yeah.
So McDonald's itself opens mostly for 18 hours. And so when they open for 18 hours, you'll find that less than 40% of the time, they're really creating money. Do you understand my point? Because they really, between the times, they actually lose money. Because it's hard to make the sales. Like they might make it. And so when they're doing their staff ratios, they do their staff ratios against their turnover.
Yeah.
Right? And they do that because they understand their numbers very well. So McDonald's will measure very different to what we measure, but it's the same principle.
Yeah.
That when you look at it, Meghan, you open your shop on Monday and Tuesday, but they're not profitable, but you have to open.
Yeah.
Because people have to know you're there. The greatest thing that makes McDonald's successful is it's open. It's open for business.
Yeah.
And so the same thing applies. Now, Gerry, my business is a 24-hour service. That's why I'm out last night.
Yeah, okay, yep.
I'm running my workshop here in Perth while my manager's away. So I have to open the workshop at night. Now, on an average, our guys don't work more than 40 hours a week, but they have to be available 24 hours a day.
Yeah, on call. Yep.
On call.
Yeah.
And most of them make most of their money between the hours of 8 and 5.
Yep.
They got to go on either side of that. And so it's you're in the same business I'm in.
Yep.
Right? And Meghan, You don't have that fortunate position because people aren't going to get up at midnight, and they don't need their face done at midnight.
Yeah.
But if machinery breaks down, we have to do something. Now, Jerry, on my way here into my office, on my way here, I had roadworks. Now, the roadworks worked from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Yep.
And you're talking about council work and so on?
Yes. Yep.
So it's conceivable that your machine can be working those hours,
For sure.
because more and more we're becoming a 24-hour economy.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know that that's necessarily where you'll go. And I'm saying that, remember we talked about infinite potentiality?
Yep.
That's the opportunity.
Yeah.
But we have to decide the finite space that we're measuring.
Mm-hmm.
Megan, is this making sense to you?
Yes, Kelly.
I understand it's complex, but business is complex.
Yeah.
And so when we set the boundaries of the time, we've got to create the money inside that time.
Yeah.
And then our promotion and our advertising has got to match that time boundary. You understand my point?
Yep.
Now, Megan, you've developed a menu, and in that menu you've developed, you allow people to pick the products and everything else. That's a pretty good concept for your style of business. And so we can hang our hat on that, but we've also got to hang our hat on how much of our time is efficient and how much product. Now, ultimately, I want to get to a product multiplier.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at Jerry, you've got a person in your mini excavator,
Yep.
right? There's an hourly rate that person should be bringing in, leveraged against the excavator.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand my point? Because it's easy to say, oh, we charge $90 for an excavator, but the person driving it costs you $45,
Yeah.
or whatever they cost you.
Yep.
And so at that moment, you've got to look at the time value and the product value. Then you've also got to look at the cost of running that machine.
Yeah.
Because now we have to have a formula for that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so any comments and any questions on where I'm heading?
No.
Okay, so remember I say words are leading calibrators, numbers are lagging. Why are numbers lagging?
Did you say laggy?
Lagging, yeah, lag.
Like,
You know what lagging means?
Yeah, to fall behind or
They fall behind. So what you're doing is you're leading out with your words. So I'm saying 55 hours. That actually, at that moment, the 55 hours is my driving. It's like the hours gives me what I'm doing. It gives the concept of it, right? But the 55 measures it. Do you understand? So now when I go 55, I then go ten hours a day, 5.5 days a week. That's what I want to create. You understand?
Yep.
So Megan, when we look at your business, that's what we're going to look at. And so when we go this one here, right? What do you do in a day?
currently?
No. That's the question I'm going to ask you is what are we going to do in a day?
Yeah, okay.
And that way we can start to focus.
Yep.
And in your case, it won't be like this because this is a very formulated day and this goes against the market. But what we were talking about. And when I sent you that stuff on the candy bar,
Mhm.
you immediately noticed their time frames, and you noticed they went to 9 o'clock, and you commented back to me that, you know, we go to 8 o'clock, and it makes sense to go to 8 o'clock, but not to 9 o'clock, right? You said you close at 8 o'clock because there's no business. So now what we've got to do is we've got to construct the boundaries of your time and then create the money flow inside that. Right? And then we have to have the leverage points.
Mhm.
Right? Product multiplier in your business is very important.
Yep.
Okay, so how are you going on changing over the product?
I'm just investigating. So I have a few meetings this week with reps. So I have a meeting on Friday to return some of the product that I have, which is what we discussed last week.
Yep.
So I'm just going through and returning a lot of my larger stock and items that aren't selling or haven't sold.
Yep.
And then I'm just investigating other brands, and I've done a lot of research probably in the last 2 weeks, asking clients and also my staff just information about what products they're interested in and kind of price points and things like that.
Good.
And it's come back to pretty much people are happy to pay between the $30 to $50 mark for a product, but they're not happy to pay the $80 to $90 mark.
So what does that tell you?
That my product's pricing's too high.
Yes, but I don't want you to get into my product's too high, because that'll immediately cause you to think you can't make a margin.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to be very careful about that, because in real terms, if you're selling a product at $30, you got to be buying that product at $15. That's how we have to think. And if it's $50, you got to be buying at 25, and that's a minimum position.
Yeah.
Or less, yeah.
Okay, now I'm a franchisor, right? And so if I've got this formula right now that says that my guys have got to buy at 0.5, can I afford to sell at 0.5?
No.
No, because I won't make any money. So when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I'm looking at it not from a 0.5, but I'm looking at a product multiplier of about 3x. Do you understand what that means?
So 3 by the purchase price?
Yes, 3 times.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, when I've created this boundary of $30, right? So I want you to really get that when you create a boundary, we create a boundary out this way. Let me see if I can make that shape black. And once I create that boundary, right, I then want to say, these are my retail prices. This is where I've got to be. Right? So I'm right there. Let me do the same with that. Oh, come on. So when I create that boundary, I know that that boundary is going to be 30 to 50, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So now when I'm looking at this thing, I have to now consider what it is that from here, right? I know that that's where I want to be, right? Now, what do I have to do? Once I know that's my boundary, what do I have to do? right? What am I doing? Okay, so what I'm saying to you is I know that people are going to pay $30 to $50. I know that that's my retail boundary, right?
Mhm.
I have to drive down my price. You understand? When I buy the product, I already know what my customer will pay, but I've got to drive down what I pay for it.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, and so you're constantly looking at, when you're looking at your products and you're talking to the people that are selling your products. Now, I think you said that you were getting less 40.
Yes, 40%.
Okay, so at less 40, we've got to come up with a formula. And when you're looking at your products, so if you're looking at less 40, that means we've got to plus the product up to get times 2. You understand my point? I'm looking for for you to be able to have a retail price 2 times your buy price at a minimum.
Yeah.
And I prefer it to be 3 times.
Yes.
So what that means is you've got to buy products and packaging that allows you to get to, and preferably you want to be at 2.4 times. You understand my point? So if you pay 50 cents, Jerry, take 50 cents and times it by 2.4.
2.4 equals 12.
12.
Yep.
So if you, no, 0.5
Yep.
times 2.4.
Times 2.4 equals, sorry, 1.2. Sorry.
So $1.20.
$1.20.
You understand, Megan?
I understand that I'm looking for a multiplier of 2.4 from my wholesale to my retail pricing.
Yes. But you've got a boundary of $30 to $50. So do you see how that plays in?
Yeah.
So you know that your customers are going to spend between $30 and $50. Now, knowing that, you've then got to create a margin. You don't want to buy the product for $30 or $50 and sell it for $30 or $50. You've got to create the margin. That's what creation is. Jerry, how would you apply this to your business?
Obviously, I've got to get my materials a lot cheaper, like especially concrete or steel. I've got to try and squeeze them down on price so I can upsell it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But because yours is high volume, you're going to get lower margin.
Yes.
Megan's is lower volume, and she has to get a higher margin. See, your multiplier could be 1.1, not 3 or 2.4. Megan's has to be 2.4 at a minimum.
Yep.
Just because they have a retail price, Megan, that's a recommended retail price.
Yeah.
Right. And you've got to add value, and you can't afford, I mean, in my mind, they set up a retail price list. It's all perception.
Yeah.
Right. The question I would ask you is, how much do you pay for Coca-Cola?
A lot.
Yeah. But if you're saying a lot, I'm actually asking you, how much do you pay for Coca-Cola?
Normally $2.20 a can.
Okay, so $2.20 a can. What if I were to tell you I paid $15 for a glass?
It's a very expensive glass.
Yeah.
Yes, but where would I be if I paid $15 for a glass?
Probably somewhere
Fancy.
Yes, that's the point. You see, it's not about the Coca-Cola, it's about the value that's added.
Yeah.
You understand my point, Megan?
Yeah, I think I do.
Okay, so in your case, you've got the product, and they can go onto an on-site website and pay $50 for something you're selling for $75.
Yeah.
What adds the value?
The service, the environment.
Yes, exactly correct. That's what you're creating. So you can't get caught up in their retail prices. You've got to get caught up in your price, what you believe. You understanding my point now?
Yes.
So it's the value you add. It's the same thing, Jerry. When you're pricing out your excavator, you've got to work out the value you're adding, because it's a competitive market. But something that's not competitive is your costs.
Yeah.
So you've got to work out what your true costs are, and then we've got to work on our multipliers.
Yep.
Now, for you, if you buy your steel better because your volumes are much higher than Megan's, you've got to consider that, and let's see if I can get this to work. You've got high volumes, low margins. Then you have medium volumes, and margins at that moment are really questionable. But then when you go to low volume, what must you have?
High margin.
High margin. Do you understand, Megan? So just if you can give me 1 second and talk amongst yourself, I've just got my guy walked in.
No worries. All good.
Hey, Josh, this is the photos. I'm going to be at least another hour.
Interesting.
Take notes and just, you can either sit.
Did you think about it?
I'm sitting next to the computer.
Myself.
Well, you just need to screw down your
24.
supplier.
They don't. I need a new product.
Well, you need to. I'm just
They
saying.
won't.
Why won't they? You just go to another supplier.
I will.
Okay, Megan, here's the point. Are all products, do they have to have quality today?
Yes, I believe so.
Quality is subjective. So most people are buying a brand, and that's subjective.
Yeah.
But quality is implicit. We went through this quality revolution, right?
I think so.
Look, in the 70s and 80s and 90s, everything was about quality assurance.
Yep.
Because you couldn't assure the quality. But quality is implicit. That means that you have to have quality. Nobody can sell a product in the market today without reporting to have high quality, high standards.
Yeah.
And so when you're buying a product, that quality is implicit.
Yeah. Okay.
And so when you get into the subjectiveness of a brand, it's only subjective. Are you going to tell me that some of the product is far superior to other product?
Not really.
No. What if you look at it from a pure engineering point of view, you want to know what's in the product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because what varies is the way the product's made, right?
Yes.
And so what you're looking for is what is in the product that would cause you to buy that product, not the quality of the product or the brand of the product.
Yes.
And so that's what you've got to consider. And then, like when you look at products like La Vache, you know, the dermalogical and some of the other ones. What's another product that is a skincare?
Oil of Ulay.
Oil of Ulay, all of those, what you're comparing is the ingredients.
Yep.
And then you're looking at the ingredients against the price that you pay for it. And your job is to understand that and say to anybody, look, you know, oils ain't oils, creams aren't creams. What it is the additives.
Yep.
You understand that oil in and of itself has packages, and it's the package of the other stuff you put in it that actually creates the value. So you can easily say that the reason why I use this is because it has this additive. Mm-hmm. And it has this much additive compared to this, and that's why you do it.
Yeah.
And you can look at a lot of studies around creams and all the rest of it, and at the end of the day, there's not a hell of a lot of difference.
Yep.
But you've got to hang your hat on a brand, right?
Yes.
And so you've got to look at it. It might be Haven brand. It's not that hard to do. I mean, I worked with a company in Taiwan where it was a hair company, and we branded all of their hair products, their company brand. And the volumes that we needed to get to, we needed to have about 5 salons purchasing the product to get the volume that we needed to be able to create the brand.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and today their margins are way higher because we did that. Now, it might be 2 or 3 years down the road that you consider branding.
Yeah.
But again, we have to get the formulas correct for us to do that. Mm-hmm. We have to get the volumes right, the formulas right, and then all of a sudden you create your own brand.
Yeah.
And inside your brand, you have that product. So if you look at the Hose Masters brand, we actually branded Hose Masters. Did we make the hose?
No.
No. We didn't make the hose, but we created the specification for the hose, and we sold the hose. And so one thing I'm absolutely clear about is that when you look at this line here, right, you're constantly looking at lines going across this. Oh, come on. It's going to make me do it every time. So what you're doing is driving these lines.
Yep.
You understand what these lines are?
Less money?
Less money. Yeah, less money for against the retail.
Yeah.
So you're constantly driving that towards a much better price. Now, when I first started business, Megan, I started at less 40. Today, I buy at less 22. My buy price is less 73.
Wow.
And when I got it at less 40, I thought I was the king of the world. Now, what I want you to understand is that when my volume's high, my margin can be low. Yeah. And so when my volume is low, my margin has to be high. So when I'm buying, it's against quantity.
Yes.
So the only way, like when I put my name on the hose, I had to buy $100,000 worth of hose. Mm-hmm. And I had to be able to retail $100,000. I had to buy it by the container instead of by the meter. You understand? Go ahead.
Kelly, if you had to buy a smaller order for whatever reason, say you had to buy 15,000 units or whatever, now you've got this formula, can you scale up? Can it be scalable so you can sort of move it down and it'll automatically calculate the margin and all that sort of thing? Can that be done?
Well, the thing that I've always learned is that when you negotiate a deal, you've got to negotiate the deal as if it's the future.
Right.
So when I'm negotiating, I don't talk to people about, oh, it may be less. I create a brightness of future.
Yeah.
It's always going to be more. I'm going to buy more from you.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work out.
Yeah.
But you create that, and so you say to them, I have to have your best price now.
Yeah.
If you
No,
want,
the reason
go
I
ahead.
was just trying to relate it back to my business, because I know, like, per square meter, obviously, if I'm pouring 1,000 squares, I charge around about $26 a square. But if I'm only doing, say, 100 square meters, well, then my square meterage rate's probably up around about the $70 a square meter for me to make any money.
Exactly right.
Yeah, so that's where I'm sort of relating this high volume, low margin stuff to. That's all.
Yeah, but in your case, that's what we're going to have to do.
Yeah. Yep.
We're going to have to work out, because if you charge one, you're actually paying to do the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does take a lot of time for me, because I've noticed even these, I went and priced a small job the other day, and it was only 30 squares, a little small down the side of a house. And I thought, well, I can't work off a normal square rate because there's no money in it. So I had to break it down, materials, how much labor, and it worked out like about $105 a square meter. And the bloke nearly fell over, but I just said to him, I said, mate, he goes, oh, I can get it done for $2.5. I said, mate, go get it done. I said, I just can't do it for less than 100. I think it was about $106 a square. But that's what my labor,
think of the
materials.
psychology right now.
Sorry?
Think of the psychology.
Yeah.
Why did you quote it in square meters?
No. Well, I sort of came home and I wrote it down, had my little sketchbook, wrote it down, and I thought, no, that can't work. So then I broke it down how many men I need, and then I divided that cost by how many squares were there, and it worked out to 106. And I just thought, well, it is what it is. That's my cost. And threw it at him, and yeah, he nearly fell off his horse. But
yeah, but Jerry, the question is, how do you sell it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You see, when your language is, he nearly fell off his horse, and he said, I can go get it somewhere else at this price.
Yeah.
Now salesmanship comes into it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I agree.
You don't say to a person, well, go get it somewhere else. You say, look, the reason why we have to do this, we have to warranty this work for this period of time. I have to have this many people on the job. You're caught between being a big job and a small job, and we've got to move the equipment in. All of that's factored into it.
Yeah.
So when you get somebody else, they may not bring in the efficiency, and so you can say to them, this really is a job that we have to do it this way, because these are all the things we have to do.
Yeah,
you got to value up.
Yeah, and look, I always say to them, look, we're fully licensed. I'm a fully licensed contractor, fully insured, blah, blah, blah. And I'd say 8 times out of 10, that usually gets them, because I get a lot of cowboys, we call it in the industry, that'll just rock up with a ute and a wheelbarrow on the back, and they just think, oh yeah, we'll come in and do it. Then they're not qualified guys. They're not fully licensed. They're not insured. And then you sort of get what you pay for at the end of the day. And I try and throw that little spiel in there, and 8 times out of 10, they'll go, yeah, we'll go with you because you're fully licensed.
Okay, but do you talk it over with them, or do you put it in writing?
Just verbal talk over with him.
Yeah. So how does that separate you from the backyard guy?
I think puts me in a better position than the back.
No, you're missing my point, Jerry. You've got to leave them with a tangible quote. You've got to leave them with your iconic concrete, and you've got to add the value by every particle of information that you have.
Yeah, okay.
And you think personality is going to get it?
Yeah, no, probably not. No.
No, what I'm saying to you is you've got to have a format.
Yeah.
That actually not just talks about a value, shows a value.
Yeah, okay.
And so when you go in there and you're personable, which you are,
yep,
and you say, well, I'll get it on personality, What I'm saying to you is we've got to do it by formula. We've got to do it by the words we use and the numbers we measure.
Yep.
And that's exactly the point you're asking.
Yeah.
You're saying to me, okay, when I do this scaling outwards, we've got to consider exactly what I'm saying, volumes.
Yeah.
And as we consider the volumes, and we got to consider the time as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So, you know, you can say it looks like a small job, but to prepare for this job takes a lot of time.
It does. We could put, like, for that 30 square job, I could, with the same time, we could probably still put down 200 squares. You know what I mean?
That's the point. That's the point of volumes.
Yeah.
And so you say, well, look, and maybe that's something you have to decide. You might have to decide that you won't do 30 square meter pours.
Yeah.
You might have to say, look, you might have to find somebody that will do that and get them to do it, and they do it under your brand.
Yeah.
You understand my point?
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, you're creating something. What's happening is all your business revolves around you. See, where Meghan's business is much stronger, in a sense, is that she has to get other people to do it.
Yeah.
And she's creating a business by the fact that she's not doing it. You're a subcontract. You're a subcontractor. You're not a business.
Yeah.
But you've got the potentiality of being a business, right? And that's really what I'm about. I'm about teaching you how to create a business.
Yep.
And what I'm looking at in Meghan is how to enhance her business. Meghan has no choice. She has a business.
Yeah.
You're a subcontractor.
Yep.
You subcontract to larger businesses.
Yep.
And what we're doing is looking at how do we create a business. Your branding is spectacular.
Yep.
Right. And the imaging of your business is very good, but the business itself is subcontract.
Yep.
Which means that, I mean, at some moments it's very good. But if we're going to really turn it into a saleable business, we've got to back it onto your brand. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Meghan. When, you know, ultimately people buy the brand and the brand presence. You don't want them to buy the personality. And Gerry, when they buy you, they buy the personality. We want them to buy iconic concrete.
Yeah.
We want to separate the personality out. Now, the same thing with Meghan is when we look at her business, we've got to separate it out. And I still don't think our branding can be strong with this idea of Haven Bar.
Yeah.
And so we're still searching for the right branding. Like the images are quite good, but I think the name doesn't say it yet.
Yeah.
And so as we develop our product lines, Meghan, I want you to think about when you develop your product lines, I want you to think about people saying your name. You know, what's the brand is? Oh, the brand is this. Look, they're high quality products. The ingredients are correct. And Meghan's making the decisions and we trust Meghan. Right? But she's still a brand.
Yep.
It can't be a personality, you guys.
Yep.
I mean, it's nice in social media to have a personality. A business has to have a value.
Yeah.
Right. It's easy to say, oh, well, these guys have got 300,000 or 400,000 followers, but are those followers paying them money? Mm-hmm. Business is about money. It's not about bloody likes.
Yeah.
So when it's all said and done, it's like, how much can we actually create by the brand? And how much can we manage it? So Gerry, I want you to be a business owner, manager, leader.
Yep.
I don't want you to be a subcontractor with a spade in his hand.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what you need to understand. And I think from what I can hear about Meghan, and I don't know enough yet, she's a manager. She's a manager, leader. Do you understand my point, Meghan?
Yes.
It's really very important, and it seems like you've taken that position. You know how to do the hands-on, but you also want somebody else to do it. And so what we have to do is then we have to leverage the management side of it. And what you've got to look at is each one of your rooms is a space.
Yeah.
Each one of those rooms is going to create money.
Yes.
Now, long term, if we're divisionalizing your business and reducing your risk, we're actually going to say that each one of these rooms, can be subcontracted. And you can mitigate your risk.
Yep.
Do you understand? It's no different. The concept is no different than Jerry's Digger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's got to be a value-added profit zone.
Yeah.
Each one of those rooms, each time you look at your display rack has got to make money.
Yes.
And it's got to add value by doing that, and it's got to be like impulsive.
Yeah.
So when people walk into your place, if they're 5 or 10 minutes early, you want them touching the product. And while they're waiting, you want somebody explaining the product. Now, I've supported a business again in Taiwan that does exactly what you do. And the way that they value added was through jewelry.
Yeah.
And why did they pick jewelry?
Probably to complement, I think.
Low volume, high margin.
Okay.
You've got to look at that. It doesn't sell a lot, but it's a high dollar value, and it's a high margin, and it's very impulsive.
Yeah.
So I want you to understand that, and they leveraged out. I told you that my nephew in Canada has got a hairdressing salon, or did I tell you?
No, I don't think you told us that.
Okay, my nephew, and it's called Iconic Architecture, right? And he's talking about hair. But in his salon, he sells graffiti. So he has on the walls graffiti, and they go for $5,000 a picture, and he takes 20%, but he doesn't pay for the picture. Do you understand my point? So we get to this moment where you start to understand the leverage. And so he has graffiti all over his salon. And then the other thing that he did, which was unique, is he put a tattoo parlor in the hair salon. So not only does he sell graffiti on the wall, he'll put it on your arm.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Canada, they've done videos on him. They've actually gone through his business and said he's been an entrepreneur of the year and stuff like that. But he really understood that margins. My younger brother, he owned a company that had 250 ladies' wear stores.
Wow.
It was well until the American NAFTA agreement that the Americans are bitching about now. All of their large retailers came in and overnight shut them down. And they literally went into liquidation within 2 years of that agreement. And it was called the 49th Parallel Agreement that allowed the Americans to come in with no tariffs. It reduced the price, but it put a lot of businesses out of business. And my brothers just happen to be one, but my younger brother is, again, like me. We understand margins. So now he builds houses. Don't ask me how you go from women's wear dress to houses, but he did. And so what he does is he builds packaged houses. So he designed a system where you could build a house in a day. That's electrical, plumbing, everything.
Wow.
Because he saw shelter as an important thing, and then he designed all the stuff around that. But again, it comes down to when you're in the building industry, it really is high volume, low margin. And it's hard to get around that. You understand my point, Jerry?
Yeah.
But in your business, Megan, there is no question it's low volume, high margin. And when I look at the business I run here in Perth, it absolutely has to be low volume, high margin. Because where a lot of companies sell 100, 200, 300 meters a house, we sell 1 meter, which is to Jerry's argument about the square meterage. But oddly enough, Jerry,
yep.
Today our guys sell large meterages. Okay. And we don't give very much away because we add value. People understand because we created a trade that you bring your problems to us. Now companies bring all day long. I have people speaking to me about a problem that they have. My job is to solve problems, save money, and make a margin. Do you understand my point? So what's my point?
I've got to solve more problems, I suppose, and create a better service. Or add value.
I think we need to understand our margins, because I think we don't at the moment. So I think we need to understand our margins better.
Yeah, and people call margins profit. They're not profit, they're margins. They say, oh, your gross profit. No, let's get rid of all that accounting nonsense. A margin is money left over from what you paid. It's not profit. Profit is when you do your tax position at the end of the year, right? And that's how you know you make a profit. So I'm saying to Megan at 0.82, and since we've been working together, she's been getting about 0.82 of a target we set. That's a theoretical profit because we set the boundary at 0.65. Yeah. Right? We know that at 0.65, she's going to go broke. But at 0.82, we know that there's a theoretical profit. It's not a big profit, but it's a theoretical profit. Now what we have to do, Megan, is increase volumes. You increase volumes by having more rooms. So the question is, do you go to a bigger space, or do you divide it and have another space? And you don't want to take the risk. Do you understand my point?
Yes.
So the more we calculate the potentiality of something, the easier it is for us to create a profit. Do you understand that? Yep. So what I've been saying to you today is we have to set the boundary of time. That becomes finite, but the opportunity inside that time is infinite possibility. And then we've got to look at the possibilities. So Megan, we're looking at the possibilities of makeup. We're looking at the possibilities of different cares for your skin. We're just looking at all those possibilities, right? Yep. Now with Jerry, we're looking at the possibilities of his equipment, but you're still working in a finite time frame. Right, Jerry? And so when you're looking at going into somebody's house or somebody's where they live, you're probably looking at people maybe in a weekend, yeah, or things of that nature. And so when you get to that nature, you're really getting to a moment where you have to decide. I just have to take some food now because I'm a little bit low on my blood sugar. But again, if you're looking at the possibilities, we've got to create the possibilities inside a time frame. You know, when will you work? When will you not work? Yep. And so are you 7 days a week? Are you 5 days a week? And you've got to create that as a manager. Yep. You understand my point? Right now, you're at the will as a subcontractor. You're at the will of a contractor.
Yeah.
Your machine allows you to create your own space that says, I'm going to do this.
Yep.
And conceivably, in 5 years' time, you won't work for any contractors. You'll be the contractor.
Yeah, ideally, that'd be nice.
Well, no, you have to think about it like that. Your future, create your future.
Yeah.
You don't want to do a 30 square meter pour, but you want to control it.
Yeah.
Because in real terms, the aftermarket would have more 30 meter pours than 1,000 meter pours.
Yes. Sure.
And as we get more and more in concrete, today, in today's world, polished concrete is one of the reinvented building materials that people love. Grinding floors, on the walls, patterning on the walls. It's coming back, right?
Yep.
And so you're into a market that's going to do all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly, it's interesting because Gerry did a course last year in concrete furniture because we were looking at doing that as well.
But it's because it's such a nifty material and lasts so long.
Yeah.
So you're looking at that. And again, it's really very important, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys understanding what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
Everything starts at one and divides. First, we set a time frame, and then we look at the potentiality inside the time frame.
Yep.
And as we do this, we create a formula. And as we create the formula, we drive from a formula. That's why, Meghan, I set up a very simple formula. It's a very simple game, 0.65 and beyond, right? We don't like less than 6.5.
Yep.
And every time we get below 6.5, we're losing.
Yes.
Every time we're above 6.5, we're winning. We've got to create the same formula for your machine, Gerry.
Yeah.
You know, right now, you don't know whether you're winning or losing. All you know is you're not doing.
Yep.
Right? It's conceivable that by working your machine, you might lose. That's why we have to set out the formulas. Do you understand it's conceivable that you might lose?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, you might lose because you don't have an experienced operator.
Yeah.
Right, and so that brings me back to the point where the person that you've got running it has got to be certified.
Yeah.
Right, you say you're a certified builder or certified in what you do?
Licensed. Yeah, we're fully licensed contractor.
Yeah, fully licensed. But now the person driving that machine's got to be certified.
Yeah.
And now you've got to choose, when we do that, we've got to work out how is it that we run the expense of that machine and mitigate our costs. So it's conceivable that you can have somebody else promoting the idea of that machine, not you. Is this making sense?
Yep.
Meghan, is this where you wanted to go today?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Because what's really important to me is I can talk all day, but if I'm not making sense, what's the point of my talking?
No, I think it's probably last week and this week has made me really look at the products that and my margins. And it's just got me really thinking a lot, even last week, that I don't have a lot of impulse buys in the salon. So I think I need to look at obviously different product ranges and a lot more of an impulse buy for the clients.
Well, I think what's important is that the front of your shop is producing no money.
Yeah.
And you got a per square meter, so we can work out per square meter how much you're creating.
Yep.
And then we've got to look at, by doing that, we can look at what sort of shops we should have. Because ultimately, if you're going to manage something and lead something, you don't want to do it just for one little shop. You want to do it for multiples of shops. Mm-hmm. And you want to work out, am I subcontracting? How am I working this shop? That you've got to work all of that out. And that's what my job is to get the formulas, get the branding, and get the marketing correct.
Yeah.
Right? Because once we've got that, we can drive the living crap out of it. Right? And from your point of view, Gerry, it's very important to us to be able to measure.
Yeah.
And right now, you can quantify, but you don't measure very well. So quantifying is your price per square meter, but you don't actually measure the margin on that per square meter. You just do it because that, as a subcontractor, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
And you're lucky so far.
Yep.
You have one of your builders go down, and where does that put you?
Yeah, I've got to chase another one now. Yeah, got to keep on.
Yeah, you're up shit creek without a paddle.
Yep.
You understand my point?
Yep.
Okay, so Meghan, most times I talk, but near the end of the talk, you've got a pile of questions. What are your pile of questions today?
I think I'm not sure if they're questions or statements, Kelly. I think I'm still struggling a bit with the name. So I've done a bit more, like I've looked around online, gone out a little bit, and also looked at words. Like last week we spoke about salon and you spoke about church, like the meanings and looking those up. So I'm still kind of struggling a little bit with finding a name for the business.
Well, in my view, piler is better than bar. Right? Because bar connotates something very different. And what we have to do is, I think you want to be unisexed. I think like in a lot of markets that men control, women are the upside of the market. But what happens in a market where women control, the upside could be men. You understand my point?
Do you think that I should rename, like get rid of all the actual name of the business?
No, I think I don't know enough about it yet to get a sense of what it should be called.
Yeah.
But I do understand that we have to position it better than it's positioned.
Yeah, and I think from seeing your pictures about I think, was it called Candy?
Candy bar, yeah.
Yeah, I actually thought that was funny because when we spoke a few sessions ago, when you brought in that makeup palette,
yeah,
Too Faced, that was technically like a chocolate or candy bar. That's how they market their makeup.
yes.
Yeah, so when you sent that candy through, I was laughing, but I liked how, like you said, they're low. Everything was very bright, and I knew kind of straight away when I looked at it what was there and opening hours and what they did.
Yep.
I think my branding at the front lets it down because it kind of fades into the background.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I took those pictures.
Yeah.
Because I want to give you examples. I don't just want to be talking at you. I want to say, this is what the market's doing.
Yeah.
And how do you fit into that market?
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm trying to look at. So I'm still doing that, as well as, I guess, revisiting products, looking at products. I think the only question that I have really this week is probably more for Gerry's business.
Okay, so what question do you have?
For Gerry's business, I just wanted to know if last week we spoke about writing agreements between Gerry and the businesses that he contracts to. So ensuring that before we start work that we have that written agreement, whether we email or get them to sign it straight away. I think we just need a little bit of help with writing that agreement because I'm not really sure exactly what to put in it.
Okay, what I'll do with that is my son's a law student.
Okay.
And we'll start to, maybe Gerry and I'll have a conversation with him. He's a typical law student. They're so full of crap they can't get, but they do understand. One of the things I did with my son when we were in the United States is I got him to work with the top franchise firm in the United States when he was 15 years old. So I sidled him up to a guy that won the franchise lawyer of the year for the US, and he got to work with that guy. And really, the tensile strength of business is its agreements. Do you understand what I mean by tensile strength? But it holds it together. And what holds it together is your agreement. So we do have to get really good agreements.
Yeah.
And I think we need to look at agreements. We have subcontractor agreements. I can't do it this week, but by next week I'll do it. Like not the next meeting, but the week after that, I'll send you some subcontracting agreements. I just don't have them on my computer here. One thing you'll see about me is I'm very digital. And so when I go to my computers, I've got a computer here in Perth, I got a computer in Brisbane, I got a computer I take home, and they're all knitted together.
Yep.
And so, but my source of information, my company source of information, I have access to. My personal information is on my personal computer. I don't mix it. And so I've got a lot of stuff on my personal computer that I can send you. I don't have it on these computers because these are accessed by everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm very careful that way. And, you know, again, the thing that I would say to you is that not only do we have to have agreements, Megan, we have to have a way of formalizing and digitizing Gerry's methodology.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that just by doing the stuff I'm doing this morning, I'm opening his mind.
Yeah.
Right? It's pretty clear that Gerry's personable, and it's pretty clear that the relationships are based on his personality. And as a subcontractor, it's based on driving the price, Gerry's price down. They want to keep his quality high, but they want to drive his price down. Is exactly what we want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, we have to be clear about what we want. Is this making sense to you, Gerry? And so again, what I need to see is, Gerry, you were going to do the pricing of the repayment pricing on your equipment. I want to know what you paid for the equipment, what your repayment on the equipment is, how long the lease is. We want to know all of that so we can genuinely formulate a cost analysis on it and then work out. Now, in the meantime, it's important for you to get another driver.
Yeah.
And I think from my point of view, you've got people that work with you that you trust.
Yeah. I actually spoke to one of the guys that works with me yesterday, and he's actually got his ticket. He just didn't step up and say, "Hey, I can drive it." So he's actually licensed, which is Luke. So I can, and he's had experience on them years ago, but he said, look, I've still got my ticket, so I might have a bit of a chat to him and see if we can swing something. But I did do some research yesterday on training courses and all that sort of stuff. I've got all that information here and all the cost of the machine, the repayment cost per month. I've got everything here.
Can you send all of that to me, and then we can start formulating?
Yep, sure.
We need to know exactly what it's costing you, or
Yep.
what the expense of running that machine is.
Yep.
You now have a resource that you didn't even know you had.
Yeah.
Right.
It was funny because he's one of my good concreters, so I try and leave him to run the pours. And then I have like what I call like a preparation crew, I suppose, that sort of prep all the works. As soon as the concrete's in, everyone will fall back and start getting stuff ready for the following day. But usually, yeah, he's my I'd say number one or number two concreter. So I leave him in the concrete. He does all the concrete finishing. However, he's multi-skilled. He's got his diggers, his Bobcat ticket. He's got a few other tickets as well. But I think, yeah, I utilised him more in the concrete because he's really good in the concrete. That's why I left him in there. And he never said anything. But now, and he's like, he's probably the same age as me, 42, 43, around that sort of age. So he said to me, he said, look, I'd love to get out of the concrete and sit on the machine and pull levers for a few hours a day. So, yeah, it's something that I can definitely talk to Luke about and see if we can.
But again, you're a business owner now.
Yeah.
You've got to determine what's best for you.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like we struggle to find
good
supervisors. So if, like, personally for me, I would leave him in the concrete and find an operator.
Yeah, I think I'll do that.
That's because you struggle to find concreters that have a brain.
Yeah. that are any good. Like they can only lift heavy things. But this guy's actually got a brain, and he's pretty good with the concrete. I'd say he's probably if not the best, the second best there. He's pretty good. And he's got experience with running jobs too. That's why I've left him in the concrete to look after the pours.
Yeah, but again, you want him to be a supervisor, not a shoveler.
Yeah.
Right, I understand. I mean, one of the hardest jobs I ever had was concrete.
Yeah.
You know, getting a shovel in concrete's not as easy as what people think it is.
Oh no, it's not. It's very difficult. It's very strenuous on the body for sure.
Yeah, and knowing how to use tools on it is pretty important.
Yeah.
So I tend to agree with Megan. You don't take that guy out. You know his position. You upgrade him in his position so you can do something else.
Yeah.
Okay. You make him more of the site supervisor. You're the site supervisor right now. You got to get out of that.
Yeah.
Right. You got to get out and be a business owner.
Yes.
And we've got to make that transition.
Yep.
All right, Megan. Any other questions?
One last question. Kelly, am I allowed to look at the company that you talk about in Taiwan? Am I allowed to have a look at do you share that information so I can just see what they do or look at their page or?
Yeah, I'll find it out for you. I'll actually get the woman online with you.
Okay. It sounds really interesting, that's all. I'm just kind of would be interested to see what they do and kind of just look at how they work.
Well, I'm happy to do that. It'll take me a couple weeks, but I'm happy to get her on a call with you, and I'm happy to. A good friend of mine's an interpreter, so that we can actually speak and you can actually ask questions.
That would be good.
I'm telling you right now, the people that are best with face and hair in the world are Taiwanese that I know of.
Yeah, I know.
Because they have to. There's so much pollution that it's almost like it's not a luxury, it's a need.
Yeah. I think because I'm following more, I didn't really think of the Taiwanese. I follow more the Korean trends because they distribute a lot of products. So I found like at the moment there's a lot of things, even Kmart are selling them like quick kind of just, really quick and easy products that they're selling like face masks and small cleansers in travel sizes and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of it's coming out of Korea as well. And really.
Yeah. And again, from our perspective, how do we buy from Korea? And I've got a resource in Taiwan that can buy from Korea.
Okay.
And we buy directly from the manufacturer. We don't buy from the brand in between. Now, I apologize, but I'm going to have to start finishing up because now I'm at a point where I got to go to work. I got to do what I'm telling Jerry not to do.
Yeah. No problem.
Jerry, how do you feel? What do you take away?
I feel good that we had this chat today. I think what I've taken away is these formulas and how powerful they can be. And it's something that I think, I need to bring on board to get the business a lot. Will make me understand a bit more about the time versus money and all that sort of thing. But I think, formulas, I thought it was just some math thing that some math guy done down the road, but it's actually makes sense once you sort of related it back to the business. So, I think I took a fair bit away from that. Thanks. What did you take away from today? Or how do you feel and what did you take away?
I feel really good today, Kelly. I feel like very similar. I'm starting to understand more behind the scenes with the formulas and also understanding a lot about margins because I don't think I really understood a lot before that. I've never really done any formal education besides a few courses on business, finances and things. So it's actually really interesting. And I can see how moving forward we utilize that with the business. So I'm feeling good. Kelly, how do you feel today and what do you take from our meeting?
Well, I'm still feeling tired.
I can send Byron over if you like.
Yeah, he can support me in getting less sleep, right?
Yeah.
No, I feel like we're making progress
Yeah.
because you're asking good questions and you're asking to know things that, you know, I like to be pushed. I don't like just talking to somebody and giving them, you know, I could talk all day on theory, but what we have to do, we have to have a hypothesis and create a theory. A hypothesis is what we're doing right now. A theory is what actually is a working model. A hypothesis is working towards that model. And all I'm doing is hypothesizing right now. I'm saying, what if, what if, what if, what if, what if? But I sooner or later want to get to, I'm going to drive it. I'm going to drive it. I'm going to drive it. So Megan, you keep good track of numbers. And what's important to me is we stay between 0.82 and above on a weekly basis, because if we do that, I know that we're going to win. But if we drop below that, we're in trouble. And it's easy to go beyond it. I want to go to 1.25, 1.5. I want to get that side of it going, but it takes time and it takes understanding. So I think it's really very important that we look at it from that perspective. Jerry, we've got to get you from a subcontractor to a business owner. Yeah. Your brand is really strong. It's way too strong for a subcontractor.
Yeah.
You understand my point, Megan?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know who got it. Was that part of your idea as well, Megan?
Yeah, a little.
Yeah, because it is actually a really good brand, but it's still subcontracted.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, from the other side, Megan, you're a good business, but the brand's not strong enough. So it's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I find interesting is it's such a paradox, you know. what one's really strong business, the other's really strong concrete, but the branding seems to be better on one than the other. It just makes no sense to me, but you know, that's the way it is.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll send you this. I think you'll need to watch this a few times to really get it.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll get all those numbers off to you too, Kelly, and then today I can send them off to you.
Megan, I'll start working on how I can connect you to Taiwan.
Okay, lovely.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
See you later. Thanks, Kelly.
Bye.